9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, everybody. Hello, and thank you for being here. This is Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier, and I am on the No Soundbites Allowed podcast, which you can find on the Exceptional Conservative Network. That's right, the TECN TV Network. And I'm happy to be here with you on this Saturday, June 1st. It's a great day, great weather out there. I hope everyone is enjoying it. And at the same time, I hope you're enjoying the show and you've come in to check us out. And we'll be here from 12 until 2 p.m. And I look forward to seeing everybody. Please remember you can contact us. You can call into the show at 607-242-9247. You are able to reach us on Twitter at the MV Consult, or you can reach us on Facebook. And of course, there is the chat room for the program itself. And we will be watching all of those for your comments because you are the biggest part, especially on Saturdays, to be able to speak with us and let us know what's going on. So there's a lot of things I want to cover today, a lot of issues that I want to address, and I want to, it's so much news. And literally right up until about 5 minutes ago, I was researching and double checking some of the things that we're going to be speaking about in this program. And I wish that it was all great news and everyone would be happy. That's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of sad news that came out, especially late yesterday. There was a lot of news announcements about Virginia Beach, and what's happened down there, another mass shooting in the nation. And it's kind of sad because we hear about these things and they're horrible events. There's not nearly as many as we think there are, but they are existent and they do happen and they are important. But it's just troubling. It's very troubling to hear about each and every one of them. And I want to talk about that, about gun laws, about these mass shootings, because my position is, and maybe you agree, maybe you don't, and I'd love to hear what you think, but I think the problem is we need to get to the root of the issue, which is what causes someone to believe that the only answer they have is to go out and kill innocent people. And we see this from a lot of different aspects, whether it's a school shooting, whether it's some other event. What's doing that? Now, sometimes we know the answer to that. In some cases, like in San Bernardino and in Orlando, Florida, we know it was because of religion, that there were religious fanatics that went out and they believed that the answer to kill innocent individuals was because of their religious belief. And any fanatic is always wrong. Any fanatic is always wrong when they make the decision to go out and just kill innocent people, because that's just, there is nothing right about that. And I think we can all say that we disagree with that. But then it gets a little bit murkier when you step away from the religious fanatics and you go into people who have political beliefs and they're doing it because of that, like the Scalise shooting at the baseball field in D.C. If you're talking about the kids in Islamberg, New York, who went out and they were planning to bomb 4 kids, all under 20, that were looking to go out and bomb Islamberg, New York, because of that politics and also because of religion. That's terrifying, and that's another category. In fact, it was 538.com did a wonderful article about this a year ago, saying that there's about 38 different reasons and categories that we see of why people do mass shootings, which tells us that there's no one universal thing other than, from what I can determine, and that is, why is someone making that decision? That whatever reasons that are motivating them, They feel like they're being bullied. They don't like a religion. They don't like people who don't have a religion. They have a political point of view. Whatever their reasons are, they got fired from a job. Whatever their reason is, why is it that their answer comes down to, and therefore I must kill innocent people? That's what we need to solve. If we want to stop mass shootings, which exist around the world, and America does not lead the world in mass shootings, which is some misinformation that has been promoted a lot by major media. America is actually somewhere around 60th. But if we were to seriously put a dent in that, to slow that down, to stop that, we have to understand what is it that motivates that. And there's also the category, of course, of gang violence, which often spills into mass shootings because of the randomness. And we only need to look to Chicago to see that. And in Chicago, just last weekend, there were, 39 people shot, 7 people killed over the Memorial Day weekend, which is similar to almost exactly the same as what they had in 2018 and 2017. And they have every gun law that exists in the nation in force in the city of Chicago. The most restrictive place to own a firearm, and yet the deadliest place in the nation, with thousands, somewhere between 2,500 to 4,000 people being shot, with hundreds being killed, 3, 4, 500 people being killed every year. It's one of the deadliest places in the world. And they have every gun law you could possibly imagine. Which brings us back to laws do not protect people. Not from the criminal, not from the deranged, because they don't care about laws. So this whole emphasis, like the red flag laws that are out there, that are supposed to protect people, that are supposed to make you feel to be safer, and in fact are making you feel safer. There's a big difference. You're not in fact safer, but you feel, or some people feel safer. But at the end of the day, it still hasn't stopped the root problem, that some deranged criminal individual says the best answer is to go out and kill a bunch of people. That is troubling to me. And as long as we have lawmakers and politicians who are not addressing that concern, we're going to have really crazy events. Events like what we have seen that have taken place on Friday, May 31st, in Virginia Beach. And we're talking about specifically the Virginia Beach shooting that killed 12 people. The gunman also was killed. And as is the policy of this program, we're not going to mention the name of that shooter. They don't deserve that. They haven't earned that. Their infamy does not give them fame with us. And we're not going to mention their name. But we do know about the shooter in Virginia Beach is that this individual was 40 years of age, a black male, a person who was known in the community, had been a public speaker, worked for the government. Had no arrests in their history, had no notices in social media, no outbursts, no declarations. This isn't political. This isn't religious from what we can understand at this moment, although it's just about 24 hours later. But from what we can tell at this moment, there's no indication. And so many of the laws that we've heard throughout the nation, red flag laws like they have in New York and California, in Chicago, many of the bills that are restrictive on who can own a gun, how you can own a gun, how many bullets you can have, none of that really applies here, because none of the trigger warnings that we're told will protect the average citizen. You will be safe if you give up your right to own a certain type of rifle. Many people misname those rifles and call them a military firearm or an automatic rifle, which is completely wrong. completely misunderstanding the function of the firearms, completely using Hollywood movie definitions for what is a firearm and what they're capable of doing. Let's throw that out. This individual down at Virginia Beach, none of this applies to him. He didn't use, like many cases of shootings and firearm violence in the nation, didn't use a rifle. In fact, that's about less than 12% of all shootings in the nation are done with a rifle. And we even see more people using, very often, shotguns than rifles when gun violence is being discussed. The majority are with handguns, which is what this individual used. And we know that, and it's going to become a big thing. We're going to hear about the fact that not that just he was using a handgun, that handgun had a sound dampening attachment, otherwise known as a silencer, which doesn't make it, it's not a movie thing. It's not, oh, you suddenly can't hear it. This isn't Hollywood. Silencers don't make firearms unable to be heard. They don't muffle it slightly, but it's still a firearm and you'll still hear it firing. But he had that attached, and he also had extended magazines. These are facts. These are things that we know for sure. He had multiple magazines, and those magazines were larger than 7 to 10 rounds. And so you're going to hear a lot of people say, well, if we just got rid of the extended magazines, you'll be safe. You're going to hear people say, well, if we just got rid of the silencers, you'll be safe. And actually, a silencer is a suppressor, to be exact. It suppresses the sound. It doesn't eliminate it. And the answer to that is, and the truth is, no, it would not have made anyone safer. The Virginia Beach incident was because this guy went postal. We've heard that before. Someone went postal. We've heard and seen throughout the years individuals that lose their jobs, lose their minds, and go to their workplace and shoot and kill people. And that's a problem. And we know this. We know this is a problem, and we've seen it more. It's happened a lot throughout the years. It's not common. But if we're looking at this honestly and we're trying to find a way to resolve this, the real answer is you're not going to get the answer from a red flag legislation, because he didn't have any indication. There was nothing that said this individual is about to do something very violent. There was nothing on social media. None of his friends or family or co-workers had any indication that he was about to do this. That's a fact. And we know for a fact that he legally got his firearms because he had no arrest record. There was no mental health issue. This is an upstanding citizen in his community that went postal because he got fired. And the problem is he got fired, and his answer to being fired from a somewhat public position was, oh, I'm going to use my firearm to go out and kill innocent people. There is the root of the problem. It's not the firearm that he had. It's not the number of bullets that he had available or that he could buy. It's not the suppressor that he had on there. Those are accessories. Those are secondary. If he used a shotgun, if he used a rifle, if he used multiple revolvers, does it make a difference? Because the question isn't that. If he used a bomb, if he used a knife, we still come back to the same root question. Regardless, if he used a car, box cutters, it doesn't matter the weapon. The question comes back to, why did this individual decide that upon losing his job, the only answer that he had available was to say, let me go out and kill innocent people? There is the problem. It's true of school shootings. It's true of mass shootings. It's true of any kind of gun violence of this nature. I don't care where you're looking at. When you have someone that comes to that I don't care what kind of firearm they had, or whether they got it legally or illegally, which we see very often happening, that it's an illegal purchase. But it doesn't matter, because the question isn't how to the firearm. It's why did he make that decision? And I think we really need, as a society, to think about that and say, that's the real question. Why did they make that decision to kill innocent people? If we can answer that, I tell you, we would be far and away ahead on resolving this issue. And it's not because of how many firearms exist in America. There have always been more firearms than there have been people in this nation. There are massive numbers of firearms in Switzerland, and yet they don't have the same level of gun violence. It's not the firearms, an inanimate object. And we have seen people go out and do mass killings without firearms, with bombs, with cars, swords, hammers. The question isn't that. That's really a distraction. That is a political game. And if someone is emphasizing the firearm and not what motivated that individual, what answers this root question, you are being deceived. You are being deluded. You are being led down a path for a political gain, using your emotions to move you into a certain direction, and it's unfair. Because that has nothing to do with what is really going on. That's my opinion. Not everyone will agree with that. But I cannot see how not addressing that root question is productive in any way. And I ask you, when you speak to your politicians, when you speak to people that you know, people that you are electing to office, ask them. I do. Ask them. Do you have a law or legislation or anything that will answer the question, why does a person come to the decision that killing innocent people is their only choice? That's their only means of expressing themselves, that they have to do that. If you have the law that can resolve that, I will support it. I don't care if you're a libertarian, if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, I could care less. If you can answer that question, if you have a law that addresses that aspect, I'm all for it. But I have not heard that. What I have heard, and what you will hear often, is people going out there and they are manipulating you emotionally. And I don't think that we're going to hear about the Virginia Beach shooting very much. We're probably going to hear a little bit about, again, gun control. And we're going to hear about people saying, well, there's too many bullets and magazines are too big. And we're going to hear about suppressors. But none of those are really the problem. None of those are the issue. You're going to hear about that for a day or two. And then like many of the cases that don't fit a Hollywood style direction. It's not a military style firearm. It's not this big beast of a firearm that they want to demonize. This isn't a individual who's politically motivated. This person is a person of color, the shooter. So they're going to shy away from all of this. And this story is going to go away because it doesn't match the profile that is used to emotionally manipulate people. And that's a shame, because we should be looking at this and saying, here's an example of someone who doesn't fall under any of the guidelines that are out there. None of these laws that are supposed to make you safer are working. None of them make you any safer. We have to look at something else. Let's look at the root cause. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm barking at the moon here, but I think that's the answer. That's me. You may disagree, but there's a lot more, and we're learning more about this day by day. But that's what we know so far, and at this point, there's no reason to think that we're going to learn anything different. We're not going to get the answer of why he made that decision to kill innocents just because he lost his job. We don't have that answer. Now, if you want to look into this, one of the sources I used, and there was many, but one of them is the article from USA Today, What We Know About the Suspect in Virginia Beach Shooting That Killed 12. I would recommend check it out and see some of the things that I'm talking about. That there were no warning signs, and that the laws that you've heard about on gun control fail. Every single one of them fail and do not address this situation. And therefore, we're looking at the wrong thing. When none of the laws are addressing it, we're looking at the wrong thing. We need to rethink how we're looking at this. That's a fact. All right, let's move on.